Hey guys, Tarke here, and in today's video I'm going to be answering the question, are standing desks and wobble stools worth it? And also doing a review of a bunch of equipment that FlexiSpot sent me. Now it's worth mentioning I'm under no commission and I can say whatever I want. I will be saying both positive and negative things during this video. The website is doing a up to 27% sale during the month of October. But it doesn't affect me if you buy standing desks from these people or somewhere else, and I'll just be going over my opinions on the things that I've noticed improving from using a standing desk and things that haven't improved from using a standing desk. So let's go over the things I'll be reviewing and talk about in this video. I'll be talking about the E8 standing desk frame. I'll be talking about this lovely curved tabletop. And my favorite bit, I really didn't think, the stool of all things would be the MVP. So let's get this desk into standing mode and let's talk about things. So, are standing desks worth it? For me, I have actually noticed, Tilly, you're in the way. For me, I have actually noticed several quite big quality of life improvements. I've noticed quite substantial improvements when it comes to joint pain. With my old setup, I suffered from lower back pain and a lot of pain specifically in my wrists and my hands. I have got some health conditions which do impact that. I will not be giving any medical advice. I'll just be talking about the things that I've experienced. From this setup, I have noticed improvements to the lower back pain, but the main thing, and this has really surprised me, is I'm getting way less pain in my wrists and my hands. And I think that's because of my old setup using a traditional desk and just a traditional office chair. Because I couldn't fully adjust everything, I think I was having the table, it's just slightly the wrong height. Whereas with this setup, if I notice any kind of discomfort, that's not quite the right thing there, I can just make things a little bit higher. I can just make things a little bit lower. Even if you're not using it as a standing desk, if you're using it with a traditional chair, or as I primarily use it with a tall stool, either of the rigid or in this case the mobile variety, having that ability to just slightly micro adjust things has been the single biggest thing for me. I will also briefly go over my stats so you can make this relevant to you. I'm just over 6 foot, which is apparently 185 centimeters, and I currently weigh 83 kg. Yes, I am a little bit rotund currently, which is 182 pounds. So I've wanted a standing desk setup for years and years and years. And I've also recently been in the market for a new chair after my last chair broke, and I currently borrowed an office chair off my mum. Now, the thing which has always been very scary to me when it comes to investing in stuff like new chairs, or desks specifically, is they're often very, very expensive. So the total price of everything that I was sent to review was £657. Now, £657 is a lot. That is a big chunk of my monthly rent. And that is very, very intimidating. Now, yes, you guys, you can buy stuff and sell or whatever next month, or we could go somewhere else, look for other places, but that's a lot of money. For me, one of the things which I've always struggled when it comes to buying chairs, buying stuff like this, and why I've been hesitant to really invest in that sort of stuff, is it's the sort of thing you want to try in person. Now, the good thing about this is because this is fully changeable in every sense, you can adjust every single little thing here and there with how tall or low things are. It's very easy to micro adjust it to what suits you. If I was to just quickly bring in this chair that I borrowed off my mum. Now, this chair you would think would be great. It's a pretty fancy chair. It's got lots of different options. You can change how far the arms are, how high they are. You can even twist these things around. Very loud, sorry. You would think that'd be great for me. Well, I've got a very arched back, so this chair didn't give me enough lumbar support, so that was actually causing me a lot of back pain. Despite the fact that you could adjust these arms, you could only adjust them on fixed height, and I could never get a balance right where the arm was at the right height for me and the right height for the desk. Now, since I've gotten this setup, I actually completely ditched this, and I'm never going to go back to an office chair. I'm only going to be going for standing and the stool from now on. That's how much this has improved things for me. I would say I use probably about 70% of the time I'm using the stool, in which case I'm doing that, and then I have the desk a little bit lower. And then about 20 to 30% of the time I'm using the standing desk as a standing desk. Now, the reason why I particularly like this stool, you could go for any wobble stool, it doesn't have to be one from this website, is it's a wobble stool. It's not fixed. It's got a lot of bounce in it, and it's got a rounded bottom, which I'll show you. So you can really move around. This means that you're not sitting passively, and something that I'm very bad at, and I think a lot of people are bad at, is you just get in an uncomfortable position. Like, you do something stupid, like you sit in a chair with like your legs all like crossed. Let's just get the chair out. How many of you guys have done this, right? So you just get into like a dumb position in an office chair, and then you just stay like that for like 6 or 7 hours. And then you get up and you're like, oh, my back really hurts. I don't know why. Like, I've been sitting like this. I don't know why, but this, for whatever reason, this isn't comfortable. Or you're doing like weird, like half cross-legged things. Like, I find that I have way more bad habits in a chair like this than I do using a stool. Particularly that stool, because it's not got a fixed bottom. You can't be like doing silly things on it. So you actively need to be like sitting correctly, and it kind of like forces you to sit upright. It does take a little bit of getting used to. It took me a few days, so I would say probably about 2 or 3 days to kind of get really used to the combination of the standing desk and the stool. But I'm super glad that I made that decision. Also worth noting, actually, when FlexiSpot approached me for the review, they only wanted me to review the desk, and I said, can I please have the stool? Because I've been wanting one of these for ages, because I've always been very interested in the stools specifically. I've always thought this has been a very neat idea, but I always wasn't sure if it's like a gimmick and like how good it actually would be. But seriously, for me, this chair has been the single biggest thing. And I also, again, when they said, would you like to review our stuff? I specifically asked for this desk because it has a curved front on it. Because what that allows me to do is it means that I can really lean into the desk. As you can see here, I can really lean into the desk. This is a very steady desk. I feel safe putting all my weight on it. I'm not worried that anything's going to like tipple over or anything like that. This has been the main thing which I think has improved like nearly all of my joint pain. Still have a little bit of lower back pain, but that's just from it's not healthy to sit at a computer whatever way you do it for like the amount that I do for my work. But I really do think that because this is such like a flexible setup, it's actually promoting me using the standing desk. So let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm doing lots of silly little micro adjustments, right? Because I'm messing around with the stool, I'm just messing around with the desk, I'm messing around with different heights, da-da-da-da. It means I'm actively using the standing desk as a standing desk, which is what you should be doing. So what tends to happen is I'll stay in one position for a couple of hours, and I'll be like, I'm kind of bored of this, let's stand for a bit. I then stand for like 30, 40 minutes, I'm chilling, and then I'm like, I want to sit again. Just pull this back over, boom, easy to lower, and it's easy. Because it's so easy, I actually use it the way you should be using it. In the past, when I've looked at cheaper standing desks, they've had like hand cranks and stuff, and I've been like, Tarke, you're lazy, you know you're lazy, you won't bother doing all of that stuff. I think if you are going to go for a standing desk, which I would recommend if you can afford it, they're pretty expensive, make sure you get a motorized one so that you're actually using it the way you should. It's like, it's the difference between owning dental floss and using dental floss. Just because you have some floss in your bathroom doesn't mean you're actually using it. So if you're going to say to me, Tarke, are standing desks worth it? And then I say, well, are you ever actually going to use it? And you're like, no. I would say in that sense, even in that sense, they are worth it to the extent that you can like micromanage the heights more so than you can a traditional desk. So I suppose even in that extreme, as long as you actually set up correctly to the right height, then I guess it is worth it. But like, that's quite excessive at that point. I think the value really comes from actively using it, not just passively. You just being like, I'm a passive sitter here, and really engaging with your full setup. Now, getting into a negative of this standing desk, and I think you'll have with pretty much all standing desks, but I will mention a hack to get around this at the end, is desk real estate. So this desk frame is 140 centimeters by 70, and I thought 140, that should be enough. I measured everything out, And as you can see, I've got my rig, I've got 2 monitors, and I've got this microphone arm, and everything kind of fits on here, right? But it does feel a little bit cramped. Now, before this, I had 3 desks in a U shape. I threw out 2 desks. As you can see, I kept 1, which I now just use as like a drawing table. It actually looks quite nice, but anyway. And before I had everything spread across the desk. So I had 2 monitors on my central desk. I had my rig on one, and my microphone on the other. What I realized very quickly is, hang on, I now need to fit everything onto this one, because I don't want to have everything on different levels and potentially have wires falling all over the place and the trouble that could come from that. A hack for this is you can just buy the frame. Like, when you buy the frame, it doesn't come with a tabletop. So you could just buy the frame, and what a lot of people do is they buy like kitchen counters from like IKEA and stuff for quite cheap. And that way you can get like really long ones, and that might be quite a good workaround. I will say though, I think a big part of why I like this setup this much is because I went for this curved tabletop. This makes a massive difference for me anyway, being able to really like lean in like this, and just having that slight rounding, I really rate. Now, to get into some negatives of this specific tabletop, everything arrived correctly. It all arrived in good condition, except for this tabletop had a very slight scratch on it. Now, because I was sent it for free as like a review product, I didn't complain or anything. However, if I'd paid for it, the fact that it did come with a slight scuff, I probably would have asked for either some partial money back, or like a different tabletop, depending on how extreme you are with that sort of thing. It wasn't like a massive like gash or anything. It was just like a very slight scratch. But because it's got this like very clean, shiny finish, it is quite noticeable. Now, I fixed it by, I knew that I was going to have a fixed mouse mat. This is just like a little bit of fake leather that I cut to size, just fixed the table. So I covered it. It was a tiny scratch, like not even the size of my thumbnail. But if I'd paid for that, as it would have annoyed me. Another small thing, it's a good feature, but I just think the quality could have been a little bit better. This tabletop has these 2 holes in the back for cable management. Now, from this picture, you don't notice anything wrong with those. However, there's no like finishing on the inside, so they're not like black, and there's no like covers or anything. So if you have them completely exposed and nothing on top of them, I have my rig covering one, and I have my monitor covering the other. You get this quite noticeable like inside brown from the wood inside. And it just contrasts really harshly against the black, and it's a bit ugly. Saying that though, they are quite helpful. And when I have my desk in standing mode and you see my nasty cables going on underneath here, you will see where I'm using them. So you can see here, I've got all my cables coming down from the rig through that little hole rather than going around the back. And then this cable, which drapes across there, that is the very long microphone cable from this kind of going all the way across. Now, this desk has like a metal frame that runs connecting the legs. Runs on the whole thing, which keeps it stable, and it does also act as like a small tray for cable management. So I'm actually being able to store quite a lot of cables in there, but it wasn't big enough for me to store all of my cables. So you can see I've got some offshoots. I'm never someone who cares about cable management, so for me this is actually quite a like cozy and comfortable setup. This would drive some people mad. This could be very easily fixed, but for me, I'm just going, is what it is. One also thing I will say, which was very much a surprise thing, going from a big, chunky, traditional office chair to a stool and a standing desk, is how much less room real estate this is, because the stool just fits under the desk. It doesn't have this massive big back jutting out with arms. I think especially if you use like the traditional like gamer chair TM stuff, they're so bulky, they use up so much space. The room feels much bigger with this setup. And it's really nice. And another reason why it's so easy going from like stool to stand is just how easy it is to just throw this under there and it's out of the way and we're good to go. Another small quality of life thing, which is true of any high desk, it doesn't have to be this particular one, is I no longer have the problem of my cat trying to ruin whatever game I'm currently playing. How often have you been in the situation where you're doing really well in a video game, everything's going amazing, and then your cat like just jumps up on the keyboard, is blocking the whole screen, you can't see what's happening. My cat can't jump this high, so that solves that problem completely. Now, if your cat can jump that high, well, then that's not an improvement. But for me, that's been a very small quality of life feature that I didn't expect, but I thought it would be worth mentioning. Now, if you're wondering about like how difficult this was to construct and all of that, I have a whole series of like little joke Twitter videos. And the first thing I did when I constructed this was climb on top of it and see how high it would go. I do look mildly terrified. That was a joke. I was never afraid. But yeah, very stable. I feel very safe putting my full weight on this, even with all my equipment on it. In that sense, yay, very much good to go. However, the big thing when it comes to all of this stuff is, you know, this stuff's kind of expensive. Yes, if you're going to buy from this website, definitely do it in the sale, get the most out of that big discount. However, are standing desks worth it? If you're using them, yes, I would say entirely. I think they're really good. I've been thoroughly enjoying it. I'm never going back to traditional office chair. I'm doing everything with this stool. I rate this stool the most. I think of everything, this is my favorite thing. This was like £99 compared to what, 550 about for the tabletop. Granted, the only reason why this feels so good is because this is fully adjustable and so easy to adjust. This stool with my old table would be no good because the heights are wrong. The main thing really is just about being honest with yourself. If you're someone who's been in the market for this sort of stuff and you think, actually, I'm going to put that little bit of effort in to really use it, you will notice improvements. If you're like, no, look, I've got a really nice chair. I spent like $1,000 on some like fancy Herman Miller or whatever, and I'm just going to sit in my chair all day and you're never going to get out of it. Well, then this stuff isn't going to be worth it, obviously. So you really need to like gauge it on that thing. To wrap up, I've had some people say, what are you doing in terms of the floor? Are you using any mats or whatever? Since I've been talking about using a standing desk. I do everything either just in socks or slippers. With this rug, I have no pain. And if I ever start to notice like any like aches or pain, that's kind of when I swap. The main thing is just to never stay in the same position forever. As long as you're like constantly doing small micro adjustments, then you'll get the most out of this equipment and you'll have a good time with it. If you're in a traditional chair, you're doing a more like passive setup. When you get that aches or pains, you kind of just like power through it because you're like, gotta defeat this WoW boss or gotta do more hours in this Pee Wee League start. It's all about just being honest with yourself and just being mobile, be active. But anyway, I'm Tarke. Have a good day. And yes, I would recommend FlexiSpot for standing desks and wobble stools, by the way, up to 27% off for the month of Halloween. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.